Hello, everyone. Thank you for being here. This is another fantastic episode event from the Industry Voice series here at Design Lab. I'm Guido Barata, and I'm incredibly thrilled to have another fantastic guest for the series. Today, we have with us Esther Duran, which is the Global Design Director of Fjord. Most importantly, is the Fjord representative for the global inclusion and diversity. I have I couldn't speak more words for having any better speaker for talking about such an important issue, which I'm sure is in the mind of everyone around the marketplace. And I also have here Emma Schimmens with us for Design Lab, just in case, to receive all your questions and, tips or things that you wanted to know. But with that, I just want to express my tremendous gratitude to Esther for being with us and pass her on for the webinar.
Thank you so much, Guido. I love you very much too, so thank you so much for your kind words. Hi, everybody. As Guido just mentioned, my name is Esther Duran, and I am one of Fjord Group Design Directors. I'm based in Paris at the moment, even though with this pandemic, we are all based in the same place, which is our rooms. As he mentioned as well, I am the Global Inclusion and Diversity Lead for Fjord. And first of all, thank you so much, Design Labs, for this invitation. I'm thrilled. And it is a pleasure to be here with you all and talk about inclusion and diversity. And it is a topic that is very close to my heart. And it is really, really important, first of all, to create awareness, but also to change the status quo. So slowly, we are doing that globally. And especially, it is very important, inclusion and diversity. We want to power innovation and to create successful design cultures. And we always need to remember that having a bunch of talented designers doesn't create a design culture, it just creates a design team. So those two, I leave you to think about it, because when my clients ask me, could you please create a design culture and hire the best, most talented designers in the world? I always say to them, talent and doesn't mean that you're gonna have design culture. But anyway, let's talk about it in a bit. I would like to start this talk with a video. It was from 2018, but I believe it's still very relevant to this day. So let me just share with you, and let's see what you think.
Hello, young gentlemen. Take the escalator, please. Thank you very much. Ladies, up the stairs. Thank you. Gents, you can take the escalator right to the top. Thank you very much. Ladies, take the stairs, please. Gents, take the escalator. Ladies, take the stairs, please. Don't mind. Thank you. Gents, you can take the escalator right to the top. Thank you. Ladies, take the stairs, please. Thank you very much. Thank you. Gents, go up the escalator if you want. Shut the escalator. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Ladies, can you take the stairs, please? Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Thank you. It's just the way it is. Yep, it is. Stairs, please. Thank you very much. Yep, it's just the way it is. I'm sorry. Thank you very much. All right. Thank you. Gentlemen, can you take the escalator, please? Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you.
In 2018, the path to leadership is still too slow. We need more women leaders in London to make our city even more successful. This is our time to support more women from all backgrounds into leadership roles.
Well, as you can see, it's not just in London. It could be applicable to any other city in the world. We do need more women leaders. And it's funny how the guy says in the video, it is the way it is. Because I have been in the design industry for a long time now, believe me. And I can guarantee you that not much has changed since I started 17 years ago. Women have to prove themselves twice as much as their male co-workers, and this is a fact. But let's go deeper into why inclusion and diversity is good for organizations. So, what does inclusion mean? This is what the Oxford Dictionary says that inclusion means. But we human beings, we need to feel that we belong and that we are being accepted, appreciated for who we are, but also appreciated for what we do and what we can bring. And this can be in everyday lives or your workplace as well. So it's the need to belong. It's just a human nature. And this is undateable. So when we feel included at work, we are 80% more likely to rank our employer as high performing. And this I can relate in a personal level. I started my career in advertising, and for a period of time, I could never bring my true self to work. Sometimes I was too Spanish, another times I was too gay, another times my accent was too strong. So basically, I could never be myself. I have to pretend to be somebody who wasn't not too Spanish, not too gay. But as a result, I was extremely unhappy. So obviously, I left. And if you are thinking about working in advertising, probably now times have moved forward. But I know colleagues of mine who previously worked in the banking industry, for example. And the banking industry was extremely not inclusive. And I don't think much has changed, especially in some industries. So when we feel included, obviously, and respected, which is very important as well, is a fact, it's a scientific evidence proving that when you are happy at work, our body creates hormones and healthy energy that raises our performance. And this obviously is very good for us as individuals, but it's also very good for the organization. So basically, when you have an inclusive workplace, you will be better at what you do and you will be happier as well. So clearly, when you can be 100% authentic and true to who you are in your work environment, it shows in the quality of your work. So imagine multiply your happiness plus the happiness of your co-workers, then is when you have a very happy design team. Then is when innovation happens. But now more than ever, I think it's very crucial that we find the right solutions for the complex problems that we are facing. And only an inclusive and diverse workforce will be able to come up with solutions to solve, COVID-19, environmental problems, fast fashion industries, global warming, you name it. We have quite a few of those. So again, companies that are not only diverse but inclusive are much more likely to be leaders of innovation. And that is a very crucial point. So let's have a look now and see what is diversity. So what do we mean by diversity, or what that the Oxford Dictionary means by diversity? So this is what it means. It means a range of different things. The state of being diverse, showing a great deal of variety, very different. So the importance of diversity, especially in education, it started in the late 60s in North America, and clearly was due to the social circumstances at that time. But we could all argue that even though improvement has happened since the late 60s, especially in some areas of education, we all know that there is still a lot of ground to cover in terms of diversity. And clearly it's not just in North America, but clearly everywhere around the world. So only 4.8% of the Fortune 500 CEOs are women. We saw it in the video. In that list, there is more likely that you can find more males called John as CEOs than actually women, despite the fact that female CEOs drove more value appreciation and improved stock price momentum for their firms as per a 2019 study. And I can guarantee you that probably now in 2021 will be even better. Maybe a few figures have changed on those 500 CEOs list, but I can guarantee you that not much change is there. So there is something called the fatherhood bonus, and I'm not sure if you have heard of it, but men earn a 6% higher wage when they have a child, whereas women earn 4% less than when they have a child. So this is called the motherhood penalty. And that's how bad, guys, the gender gap is. As per 2020, the top 10 ranking countries for gender parity were in number 1, Iceland, number 2, Norway, number 3, Finland, number 4, Sweden. So we have the typical Nordic countries on the top. Then, surprisingly, number 5 was Nicaragua, which is a country that not many of us will think they are on the top 10 in gender parity. Number 6 was New Zealand. Number 7 was Ireland. Number 8 is Spain. And apparently Spain is one of the most rapid European countries closing the gap, the gender gap. Number 9, Rwanda. And number 10th, Germany. So clearly, as you see there, not UK, not Italy, not United States of America, those 10 were the 10 countries where the gender parity is slightly closer. And I don't need to say, but during the pandemic, a high percentage of women have found themselves either quitting their jobs or even worse, they were made redundant by their employers. And the reason being is because they were the homeschooling the kids mainly, and this is a generalization, but clearly it was one of the main reasons. And the other reason was they were caring for family members that they couldn't care by themselves. So as you can see, even women were left behind during this pandemic as well. So this is a very important fact as well. 43% of companies with diverse boards notice higher profits. But diversity is more than just having gender equality, as you can imagine. Diversity is to have a wider representation throughout your entire company. Not just having 50-50 parity when you are a junior or a senior member of a design team, but most importantly, having diversity as part of the decision-making process is very, very important. Pretty much where all the decisions are made. So it's not really good when organizations say, well, we have achieved 50-50 equality. 50-50 equality achieved when you're a junior designer is not much. But the equality has to be, and the diversity has to be proven when we are going into the leadership of the organization, because those are the ones making the decisions. So now let's have a quick look at inclusion and diversity around the globe. And obviously some photos you're gonna be familiar with. We know this guy is no longer in power, but I thought I have to take this photo because Donald Trump in this photo was signing the Women's Health Bill. So he was proposing to remove maternity coverage in North America. As you can see here in this photo, not much diversity is in there, or even representation within this, the main topic was the Women's Health Bill. And in here you can see is 2019, this year's G20 has been fully digital, obviously for the reasons that we are living at the moment. But as you can see in this photo, this is the G20. And 2020 was hosted in Saudi Arabia. So this one was the one in Japan, in Osaka. But yeah, although due to COVID-19, it was done remotely this year, we all know that Saudi Arabia is not well known for its inclusion and diversity policies. So if you take a closer look at this photo, you will see that only 3 women were there. One of them obviously is no longer in power, which is Theresa May for the UK. So it leaves us with 2 other women just in this photo. So as you can see, those decision makers around the world, they are not having much inclusion and diversity either. And this government is the Canadian government. Once again, this photo is probably a couple of years old. This government is still in power to this day. And the representation they're using that is a little bit more diverse than obviously the previous one. So we can see the Canadian government, they are trying to be a little bit more equal and diverse. And this one, probably for a while now, this is the most diverse government that has been globally, and this is the New Zealand government. As per the stats from, I think it was a 2020 study, New Zealand's parliament is the best in the world for the LGBTQ plus representation, and it has 1 in 10. 1/5 of the parliament are Maori, and almost half of the parliament are women. But of course, there is always room for improvement. But now let's have a look at design organizations, because obviously when we talk about inclusion and diversity within design organizations, we all at one point in our lives, being designers, we wanted to work for Google or for YouTube or for Facebook, but actually they also are lacking inclusion and diversity within their organization. So as you see here, Google's workforce is 69.1% male, from which 51.1 are white, 36.3 are Asian, 2.5 are Black, 3.6 Hispanics and Latins, and 4.2 multiracial. So Google released its 7th consecutive diversity report, revealing modest increase in representation for women and people of colors, and disproportionately, obviously, white, Asian, and male workforce. Also, 3 years ago, Google was on the spotlight battling a wage discrimination investigation by the US Department of Labor, which found that Google paid women less than men in comparable roles. Obviously, really bad news. And I don't know if you remember or you have heard of the Sexist Manifesto that a senior engineer called James Damore wrote in 2018, stating that the reason why there were less women working at Google was because of their personality differences that made them less capable to do the job and cope with the stressful differences. That put Google in a really bad spot in 2018. But as we can see, nothing much has changed. Google is still a very white, men, Asian-dominated organization. And in case, because I'm really dyslexic, but in case you are dyslexic like myself and you don't understand those numbers well, let's have a look at it in a comparison in a graph. That is the disproportion that companies like Google, YouTube, and these main design organizations that we all want to work for, and that's the disparity in between the employees. As you can see, it is really, really bad. So what are the things that you need to know about inclusion and diversity? First of all, you need to get comfortable with being uncomfortable. And this is something that is going to happen. Uncomfortable conversations are there when we talk about inclusion and diversity. Recent happenings in the world has made us understand that we need to be uncomfortable to be able to change the status quo. And let's be there, be uncomfortable with all of us, And obviously you can't be rude when you're having conversations, but some conversations are very uncomfortable. You always need to lead with empathy. Empathy is very, very important if you want to change and improve things regarding inclusion and diversity. If you don't have empathy, you won't be able to understand other people's sentiments and circumstances. So try to put yourself into somebody else's shoes and see what is that to be the other person and the circumstances. Be intentional. This is very important as well. Whatever you do, you have to do it because you mean it. Organizations, when they talk about inclusion and diversity, sometimes it's just to tick boxes, especially now that if you are not ticking all those boxes as an organization, you can even be in trouble. But inclusion and diversity is not about ticking those boxes. It's about meaning it. You need to seek out different mindsets. And this is probably one of the key points. If you don't seek out different mindsets, then you will always have one vision of reality. And that is very dangerous. And have accountability for change. The Dalai Lama once says, it doesn't matter how small you are, you can always make a difference. Otherwise, try to sleep in a room with a mosquito. So think about, you could be a mosquito in a room, you could make a big difference. And talking about creating design organizations, design cultures, once again, not because you can hire very talented designers is going to make your organization a design culture organization. You really need to, the leadership really need to be on board with inclusion and diversity, really need to have a strategy and making it happen. It's not just to have a strategy on paper that you're gonna be inclusive and diverse as an organization. A design culture is more than design talent. It has to come from the top down and then up as well. So we all have to be part of it. And let's do a quick round of mentee. I'm not too sure if you are aware with mentee, but if you go to mentee.com, either with your mobile phone or your laptop, your desktop, and you put that code, we will start doing a very quick mentee to see what people think. So we're gonna see when people is starting to log in. I'm just gonna give you a few more minutes.
Esther, if you want to put the code again, I think some people wanted to see the code. Yeah, thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you so much.
No problem.
Yep. Let's give one more minute. Yeah, I think we could probably start. Let me see.
Okay, so let's begin then. Have you guys, this is totally anonymous, in case you don't know Mentimeter. It's a really nice tool. It's free to use. And this is just to get an understanding of people's feelings, but it's totally anonymous. So neither your name or your telephone number or your IP address is going to appear in here. So have you ever felt like you're an outsider at your work place? And the answer is only once, more than once, or never. Let's see. Let me see. I'm not too sure if the answers are live. So let me just double check, guys. That's the beauty of technology.
It was working for me, so I'm assuming
Yeah.
I put in some of the answer. Yeah.
Okay, let me see if I'm submitting. We should be able to see everybody's answers, but at the moment it's not showing up. So let me just quickly.
Let me see.
Bear with me, guys. I'm gonna try to solve it.
Yeah. Maybe you wanna should we look at another screen, or
Let me just quickly refresh the page.
yeah. Maybe we give it time, people time a little, but let's see.
Yeah, we have a little bit of time, so let me just quickly. Because the other one. Okay.
Also see if Emma has the ability to join as well. Yeah, we'd not be able to see the stats, but why don't we keep on going, and then we could also ask, look, there are already some questions, so.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So name 3 things that you value the most from your boss, manager, leadership, or organization. Okay, so I managed to.
Yeah, actually, some people are getting stats by email, so I'm actually sure that we have some good number already. So
We do actually, and I can see the stats coming through. So just very quickly, I'm gonna see if I can share with you guys. Here it is. But if not, I can show you. A lot of things are coming through. Talking about transparency, talking as well about. Let me quickly. So yeah, understanding, empathy, transparency. That's really good, guys. Let me see if I can share it now.
yeah, and I mean, you could also mention it. We can read those through.
So here it is, guys. So as you see, respect, understanding, empathy, transparency, trust, communication, very important. Good leadership, yeah. Mentorship is very special as well. I cannot recommend mentorship enough. I think if you want to change, if we want to change the future, we need to start with mentorship. Flexibility, of course, respect, a must. Honesty, yeah, really good answers over there. I would like to see if we can go through, if we can go to the previous screen. So yeah, the previous screen, guys, that was the answer. A lot of people has felt an outsider at the workplace, and probably more than once. And this is normally what happens. Somehow we feel that we don't belong to places, and that's when we start looking for different jobs to change. We cannot be unhappy for a very long period of time. especially at work, when you have to wake up in the morning and say to yourself, oh gosh, I have to go to work again. But yeah, thank you so much for your participation. I think this is amazing. Thank you so much. So Emma, you say we have some questions.
Yeah, before we start the question, I just wanted to, I'm really, it's quite incredible, the amount of, powerful information that you bring us. But I really feel the industry as a whole should be ashamed somewhat for the situation in which we find ourselves. And I think you're giving us the ability to really think about how proactively we could be, while we work in the different companies, and even the most innovative companies. There's a long way to go. So I wanted to, express the hope that we could all together make a change, and we can all make much more effort. You were speaking of the mosquitoes. No matter how small your efforts seem to be, when you try to create the room for people that work with you to embrace that change, it's really important that you do it every day, in every gesture. So thank you so much for that, Esther. That's really an incredible message you bring to us. Now, going to the question, there was one first question which is interesting. What do you think that the top 4 countries have that has enabled them to close the gender gap, but why US and UK are not able to?
Well, I think the Nordic countries, they're always at the front of a very progressive, not just ideas, but mindset. If you take a sustainability report, I can guarantee you that those 4 countries, the Nordics, will be on the top as well for sustainability. I think it's the mindset that they have. They have been very progressive since early 70s. So I think it's the mindset, is the way that they raise their generations. The problem that we have at the moment is that patriarchy societies, they keep procrastinating set of education. So when you go to a school, you don't get taught inclusion and diversity that much. In fact, history is very disturbed in the way that they teach at the school. I'm not sure if now it's slightly better, but believe me, when I went to a school, it wasn't that way. And I know for sure some of my colleagues and friends who live in the UK, London, the kids, they don't learn history as we know that it happened. So I think education is very important as well. And the Nordic countries, they have an education system that always changes pushes the boundaries and pushes the status quo as well.
Yeah, that's very interesting. One more question is, do you know any statistic for people who are neurodivergent or have disabilities? I know there's a lot of discussion, especially after the pandemic, around accessibility, diversity, and how those mold together. And from a digital perspective, we all know, but the question is more related to, do you know if there is any numbers or any stats?
Yeah, we have quite a few. Right now, on top of my head, I don't remember those stats. But I always say to my team, I push, and you know me well, we do inclusive design. My background is service design, and when we create design systems and even service for our clients, I always say to my team, we need to be inclusive in the way that we design. But inclusive design wasn't a common practice until very recently, actually. So maybe just a few years ago, it was very common in architecture, but it wasn't that common in design itself. So once again, I think it's very important to have the awareness and the knowledge that we need as a foundation, because I don't believe that people doesn't want to be inclusive, doesn't want to be diverse, and doesn't want to design for a majority of the population. I think people doesn't wake up in the morning saying, today I'm not going to be inclusive and diverse. I think the problem is, once again, the education system. If you are not taught by your, when you go to university or college or school, if you are not taught that you need to be inclusive in the way that you design, then you don't know anything better. So that's why it's very important just to be patient with people that they don't know what they don't know, and help them to gain the knowledge that they need to change the system. But yeah, inclusive design is very, very important, guys. So when you are working with UX, even if it's in a physical or a digital environment, always take into consideration all the accessibility points, because when you have, there are some hidden disabilities. For example, dyslexia is a hidden disability. Not all disabilities are visible, to the eye, and this is something that we need to take into consideration as well.
Yeah, so the only stat I can share is it comes from a recent study done by The Economist, where they're basically saying that more or less 1 in 5 digital user has some degree of disability that go from mental health to vision and so on. So or diversity. In diversity could be gender, racial, and so on. So I mean that's a quite high number. So in the end of it, I think one of the things that the pandemic is teaching us is to really think differently about necessarily what accessibility means once we design those products. So one more question is, as an LGBT person, I have encountered situation that I felt pinpointed based on my identity. How do you handle those situations while still remaining true to who you are?
Sorry, say again, we got the connection cut at the end.
Sorry, as an LGBTQ person, I have encountered situations that felt pinpointed based on my identity. How do you handle those situations while still remaining true to who you are? How you live in a kind of a design industry environment and thrive while respecting your true differences.
Yeah, you always have to be true to yourself. Otherwise, it's very tiring. It's very time consuming and energy consuming to pretend to be somebody who you are not. I have plenty of encounters with people who didn't share the views that I had. It could have been for the sexuality. It could have been for many other reasons. Another one that comes on top of my head is politics. They say not to talk politics and religion when you are at work. But when we talk about sexual orientation, it depends where you are in the world. Obviously, in some areas, in some countries, it is illegal to be gay. So obviously, you can't be openly gay by law. So I don't recommend you if you are in Saudi Arabia or if you are in one of those, East countries, or even in Africa, some of the African countries, it is illegal. I don't recommend you. If you fight against it, you will be in jail. So just be careful with your choices. But it's important to understand the other person's position. So when I have this encounter with somebody who didn't appreciate that I was gay, it was because of religion. So it took us a while, but we were at work, and it took a lot of time for this person to appreciate who I was outside my sexual preferences. So again, I think a lot of is awareness. So I have to, in a way, educate this person that it was totally fine to be gay, that it was, my belief, their belief was slightly different, but it was okay. And we could still have a conversation together, and we could still share, the same table and have lunch. So it took a while. I didn't try to convince them because there's no point to convince somebody. But at least at the end of this engagement that we had at work, they understood that it was okay. Still, they mentioned they wouldn't like their kids to be gay, which is a big statement. But sometimes you just have to step down and, in a way, become the better person and say, okay, you know, this is what it is. I want you to respect me for who I am, and then I will respect you for who you are and your beliefs. So I think respect, I think, is priority.
There's one more which I really love is what about ageism in tech, like the problem of age. So not only within the industry, but how we design broader. It seems particularly concerning with regard to digital literacy. It's a good one.
Yeah, it's actually it's a very good one. Aging is a problem. I mean, aging is not a problem. It's actually a virtue to age. But it is a problem when we talk about professions. A lot of discrimination when you go to different workplaces, a lot of discrimination is against older population. Now, the design industry is run by, if you're a designer, you have to be young, you have to have the latest in design, you have to have the latest in software and all those things. But actually, aging population in design, we don't understand that at one point, we all gonna be 40, 50, whatever the age. So it is one thing about aging within an industry, and then another thing is designing for a particular demographic. And those things are very interesting and kind of, they blend together in a way. So the aging population in the world is increasing dramatically. So in fact, in the future, more services and products are going to be designed for the elderly population that actually kids. So if you think about it, starting to work towards an aging population in terms of your design accessibility as well is very important. Because at one point, your services will be used mainly by 65 plus years old. So I think it's extremely interesting, those two notions. One is, could you be 50 plus and still be a designer? And the other one is, how can we start thinking and designing for the elderly population? A lot of things are happening around voice activation devices. So Alexa is a very good companion for the older population, and a lot of services are now including voice activation devices like the Alexa or Siri. So I think it's a different way of design. It's a different way of thinking, and obviously the interface is also slightly different. So I can't wait actually to see how innovative those future designs for the elderly population are going to be.
There is one I particularly like from Shani. It's asking, can you share an example or a moment of a project that didn't take in account inclusivity, and how that result into into a problem for you specifically and for the team. But there is also one other question which is very similar, which is, what can you do to be more inclusive when you feel you're not? And so those two things are relate one to each other.
Yeah, I can think about one situation at work. We were doing, once upon a time when we could still go all of us together at the office and be in the same room. We had a workshop with a client, and we used to ask in advance, because the workshop was the entire day. So we were ordering some food in. So obviously we were emailing the client asking for, do you have any allergies? Or do you have any food preferences? But we never asked if they had any other inquiries. So for example, when we invited the client to come to this workshop, we realized that two people were on a wheelchair, and one person had problems with their vision. So when we started the workshop, we realized that the people with the wheelchair, they couldn't get inside the room properly. So obviously, clearly it was interior design problem. But the person who couldn't see properly, we never thought that somebody from the client side was going to have this type of visual impairment, which means that they couldn't fully participate in the workshop. So from that moment in time, we realized that we were not being inclusive with the methodologies that we were taking. We were not being inclusive with the outcome of those projects because we were never thinking about doing a research with certain areas of the population. We were always thinking about, okay, the target audience is going to be from 20 to 30, and that was it. Since then, because we learned from that point, we designed a set of cards, or like a checkbox, where a checklist, where when we were doing a project, from the beginning, from the end to end, from the research phase, the co-creation, the workshop, the design, the testing, and the release of the product or service, we were taking into consideration those inclusion and diversity cards to understand, are we being accessible at all times in the research phase or in the co-creation phase or in the design phase? Are we including different voices that otherwise they wouldn't have a voice in this project? And then are we designing with the accessibility rules and regulations that we should be designing for? And I think that was the tipping point when we did the workshop and 3 people couldn't participate.
Yeah, that's a really fascinating story. 2 more. I think we still have a little time. What do organizations need to your opinion, what organization will need to prioritize when to build UX team in order to be successful for using their diversity, but also build for diverse audience?
So I think the first part is to build your team with multi-background set of designers. So when you are in the hiring process, it's very important to make sure that you have the diversity and the backgrounds that it will enrich anything and everything that you create within that team. Having people from different nationalities, different backgrounds, different everything that is different is very important for a design team, and it's very important for the outcome of that team. Now, when we are talking about UX, it's very important to take into consideration accessibility practices. And it is very important, not just from a personal level, when you are a designer and you want to do something that is good for everybody, but also from a legal point of view, we need to make sure that certain areas are covered into the accessibility when you are doing UX, especially on a screen. Now, I think organizations need to train their designers because new techniques, new software is coming up almost every day. So it's very, very difficult to keep up with all those latest things that we need to learn when we are working on UX or in design in general. But I believe having the right knowledge, having the right training, and having the right support from the leadership will make your team, your design team, extremely talented, and therefore the products that they design and the services that they design, they will be exactly the same as the quality of your team. You are on mute, Widow.
Sorry, my bad. I have 2 questions that are directly connected. One is what an individual that is entering the UX and design industry could do to feel less diverse, to feel more to voice and use this diversity to be a better part of the team. But also, if there is, and this was from Emily, if there is any literature or books or things you would suggest for anyone to want to research this further. Yeah.
So the first question, I didn't hear it very well. Could you please repeat?
So apologies, that's probably me. So what you will suggest for someone that is entering the industry and is afraid of having that diversity, representing, entering the industry, and if there is any literature or books or anything that you can recommend for people that wanted to research this further and be better prepared to enter the industry.
Yeah, so for example, when we talk about what do I recommend for somebody who is starting in the industry, what I recommend is you won't stay more than 3 years in your first job. And if that first encounter that you have, the first time that you are hired into an organization, you go there as a newbie and you feel that this is not the place for you, please don't stay longer, because there are plenty of design studios out there that they can fit. You will fit within the culture and the organization. So it's no point for you as a designer, as a new designer, to go there and try to fit into a culture or into an organization that is not for you. And that's absolutely fine. It's nothing wrong with you. It will happen in life, every single place that you go, you are not going to be welcome, and that's absolutely fine. So please don't waste your time trying to fit into a place that probably is not for you. Try to look around, because I can guarantee you there will be a place where you're going to be happy. People is going to appreciate what you do, who you are, and what you bring to the table. And then is when you're going to start learning. So once again, mentorship is very important when you are just starting in the design industry. Try to look at somebody who is above you in terms of a level, so senior designer or whatever it may be. Try to look upon somebody who is fair, is empathetic, and will understand, is transparent, and will understand as well where you come from and what you want to learn. I think patience is very important as well.
Yeah, and then the last one is, there is anything that you suggest for anyone here to read specifically if they wanted to explore this further, or any publication or anything that you will suggest?
So sadly, around inclusion and diversity within design, there is not much going on around, I'm afraid. So it's quite a lot about organizations in general, governments and things like that. But in terms of design, I'm afraid it's not that much. But we have a few books that are good around service design and innovation as a whole. But I'm afraid we are lacking the inclusivity within the design industry. Probably it's a gap for us to write something and to create those new frameworks as well, because I think the design industry has been stuck for a while in the same ways of working and the same frameworks that we use in terms of personas, when we create personas or when we create user journeys. I think it's important to include into the conversation when we are working different personas, different backgrounds, and I think to enhance the work that we do. But right now, on top of my head, I'm not too sure if I can recommend any books or any publications. I will think about it and I will email you guys with some recommendations.
Yeah, actually, I was happy that there are some recommendations in the chat. So thanks everyone for making that up. I have one last question, really quickly, and and it will be like, what us as design leader could do to create more inclusivity? Like, what kind of attempt, what kind of active role we could take moving forward, and if there is anything that the pandemic could teach us moving forward.
Yeah, I think the pandemic has probably taught us how to live with the basics. That's the first thing. Kind of going back to the roots in a way. Appreciate more terms of sustainability and inclusivity. And for example, some members of my team here in Paris, they live in very small apartments. So mental health is very important as well. So you guys, you need to take care of your mental health. Speak up, seek some advice as well, and some help. Please don't think, never think that, you know, seeking help is for losers. That's the reverse. When you seek help, it's because you really need it, and it's very brave to do it. So that's another thing. You need to be empathetic with the people as a design leader, with the people that you have in your team, and understand that their circumstances are totally different to yours. And some people is going through hell during this pandemic for personal reasons, for professional reasons, for family reasons. When you live far away from your family and you can't see them for, you know, more than 2 years, it also affects you personally, and you take it to work, so also affects you professionally. So I think from a design leader point of view, you really need to have a clear communication with your team members to understand at all times where they are in their path, not just from a professional level, but also from a personal level. Is very important to get that personal level into your team members as well. So to understand what are the circumstances that they are going through. I think this is key.
Thank you. That was the last question. Esther, I just wanted to thank you tremendously for, you know, giving us such a terrific wisdom and such a way to look onward. I also want to thank everybody else for those meaningful questions, for the book suggestion, for the links. We did record this webinar, so if you wanted to, go, we'll present it and post it to the channel. We also are preparing a specific post on the issue with the help of Esther, so look forward to that as well. And I just wanted to also mention that we will continue the series with other guests, but we're also hoping to have Esther working directly with us on some of those issues at Design Lab in the future. So thank you for giving us such a tremendous time. Really, really incredible.
Guys, it was my pleasure. Thank you so very much for hosting me today, and I hope you all enjoy it.
Thank you so much.
Once again, let's have more conversations of this. Try to push the status quo, guys. Otherwise, nothing is going to change.
Completely agree. Let's do better. We definitely do need to do better. So thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.